Let's speak to Dame Andrea Jenkyns, former government minister and Reform UK's candidate for mayor of Greater Lincolnshire. Andrea, can I call you just Andrea? Am I allowed to do that?
Of course, I'm always just Andrea.
I'm surrounded by dames and MBEs. I feel kind of rather wanting. Look, thanks for joining me. I've got to ask you, obviously, as we have been discussing over the last few minutes, what's your view on the Jess Philips decision not to grant a government inquiry to Oldham Council based on their request? Do you think it's as outrageous as I think it is?
Oh, God, it's disgusting. I mean, especially, look, I've been in Parliament. I was in Parliament for 9 years, and all she'd talk about would be helping abused domestic women when she worked for that charity. And it's just hypocrisy. Is it because it's not the right type of people she wants to prosecute? I'm sorry, but it's wrong.
Dame Andrea, sorry, do you mean the wrong colour?
Yeah, absolutely, the wrong race, definitely, and that's wrong, because to me, under the British law, everybody should be equal. It shouldn't matter about people's background, their religion, the colour of the skin, or what gender they are.
So we know that from admissions by, I think, Greater Manchester Police in the past, that they have admitted that they did not pursue certain criminality with regard to these rape gangs because they didn't want to incite racial tension. Do you think that's still going on? Do you think Jess Philips is now very much complicit in having exactly the same motives?
I think it looks that way from the outside, doesn't it? And
but politics before victims.
Oh, well, it certainly looks that way. I mean, I tweeted this morning, actually, Russell, because I was on what's it called, Newsnight, a few months ago.
Never heard of it. And does anyone watch Newsnight anymore? It's about 10 minutes long.
And do you know that they was having a go at me about the riots, saying that my views on illegal migration is inciting it. And this particular presenter...
It's such a lazy accusation.
Isn't it, Jess? But this particular presenter, I found a clip of her, which I tweeted earlier, where she said that the alleged victim of, which is a young girl who was allegedly raped by a Syrian refugee, she happened to point out on this clip that the young girl was more sexually experienced than a Syrian refugee. And this is what the trouble is. This is the mainstream media getting away with saying things like
outrage that there have been people in senior positions saying almost that these young white 14-year-old girls deserved it because of how they acted, because of what they wore.
To me, they're all complicit in covering this up, Russell, and it's wrong.
It is absolutely outrageous. Look, let's change the subject to one that's equally one that sticks in the throat, which is one of illegal immigration, and in particular the fact that 2024, of course, saw a record amount of people arriving on small boats, 36,800 odd, up 25% on the year before. How is Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper's smashing the gangs thing going, do you think?
I mean, look, the Conservative government didn't do great. I mean...
that's why you left, presumably.
No, I mean... Well, let's just start with that first, then I'll go on to the Labour proposal, if that's okay. I mean, I set up a petition 18 months ago with the Conservative Post to leave the ECHR, and we got over 50,000 signatures. And to me, that's the only way to stop these lefty lawyers, of which Starmer was one himself, wasn't he?
And I've got one on later, Ivan Sampson. He might not call himself a lefty lawyer, but he's on later, presumably with a rather different view to you.
Yes, and trying to stop us deporting people. And so I think that's what we need to do. That's one of the things we need to do. But I mean, Labour's proposals today, it's just ridiculous.
Let me just clarify, Angela, let's just clarify what these pointless and rather pathetic headlines, and that's all they are, really. They're designed to grab headlines so that it looks as though on the first proper day back after New Year that this government means business, particularly when it comes to immigration. Because let's not forget, immigration for many, many people in Britain is the #1 issue that they have concerns about, and everything else that kind of trickles down from illegal immigration, whether it be socially, culturally, or indeed economically. So what Yvette Cooper, just to remind everybody this morning, has announced today, and I kid you not, again, it's not April the 1st, this is a serious government policy, that in order to smash the gangs, I'm getting really tired of that phrase, by the way, in order to smash the gangs, what the government proposed to do is to remove the ability for those suspected of people smuggling to remove mobile phones and laptops from them, to issue certain travel bans, and also, and this is the big one, to remove their ability to be on TikTok, X and Facebook. I mean, when I first saw this, I genuinely thought it was a parody account that I was seeing on X.
I mean, it's just ludicrous. It's ludicrous, absolutely. And I mean, and did you also see in that as well, actually, Russell, that they can do this before people's been prosecuted as well? And I think back to also what happened in the summer when they was the Home Office was tweeting about locking up these people inciting these the riots. Even before that they was prosecuted. So this is also the long further reach of the law under Labour. But I mean, I'll never protect obviously these criminals anyway, but are they not looking that people can go to an internet cafe and go on the internet? People can get a burner phone. There's so many things. So how do they think that this is going to work?
Let's be clear, right? So
and how can it be policed?
So there are hundreds and hundreds of these people smuggling gangs. Most of them are not based in the UK. They are in places like...
A lot are in northern France.
Northern France, Turkey, Albania. So we as a country in our judicial system have no jurisdiction over people in those countries whatsoever. So, you know, banning people that might be here from using social media or from having a phone or a laptop, I mean, it doesn't touch the sides. It doesn't scratch the surface in terms of it actually being a remedy. This, I guess, is almost the judicial equivalent of being mauled by a sheep. I mean, it's
as they used to say in the 80s, fair coat and no knickers, Russell.
It's exactly that. Look, we can use all of these wonderful anecdotes all day long, can't we?
But it's also the knock-on effect, though. I mean, you must have been called it. The amount of time you get called a racist for actually calling out,
every day.
Migration.
Yeah, every day. As soon as you talk about immigration and the problem of immigration, I mean, I'll be talking to Ivan Sampson.
I mean, I had... Sorry, but when I was an MP, I remember asking a question in the chamber where I said, we should not be importing criminals, and I would like the Home Office and the Department of Justice to publish the data of crimes per nationality, because I think this is important.
Well, and they have in other countries, and of course your colleague...
I got booed in the chamber. I've got a clip where I'm booed by the SNP and the Labour Party.
Your colleague Rupert Lowe has been calling for this for months and months. He's been writing to government departments, you too, because it makes sense, doesn't it? And it's not to be racist. It's simply because if there is a particular issue with particular nationalities that come to this country, I mean, Denmark did a study and showed, by way of their data, that there were certain nationalities that had up to an 8 times higher propensity to commit crime in Denmark as, you know, foreign nationals than the domestic population. Somalia, Uganda and so on, they had a higher propensity. Now, if we don't discuss that as a factual issue, how on earth can we remedy the problem if we refuse to talk about the very problem itself? In France,
I agree, Russell.
In France, there was a study done that showed that over 70% of those convicted of rape in Paris were not born in France. Now, it's not racist to talk about the data, the factual reality that in some countries, by way of some nationalities that go to those countries as immigrants, there is a problem. It might be a problem of poverty. It might be a problem of cultural differences.
Can I come in on these points, Russell?
Please.
Yeah. I mean, I also held a Westminster Hall debate on the true costs of illegal migration, because, I mean, it's not only crime levels, is it? It's housing. I mean, if we look at Boston in Lincolnshire, do you know that 24% of their social housing tenants are not from the UK? So it affects everything. And I held this debate in Westminster Hall, and only 6 MPs, including myself, turned up to this debate, this important debate which the whole country is talking about illegal migration, and no one from the Labour Party turned up. I think this just demonstrates what the Labour Party is going to do in government with this. They're not going to do anything.
Well, and they're demonstrating that by their apathy. I mean, the fact that the Labour government have been in power for 6 months, and we would have expected to see some difference in the migration numbers. We certainly would have expected, given the run-up to the election where Keir Starmer trumpeted the whole smashing the gangs thing time and time again, we would have seen some examples of that, surely, in 6 months, if it was going to work. And look, tell us what reform would do differently, Andrea.
Well, I mean, we're finalising the policies at the moment because we're still 4 years away from election. But, I mean, I can tell you what I would do. Okay. I would come out the ECHR and, I think we need to turn them back. I don't care about the international law. I'm sorry regarding turning people back in our oceans. I would turn them back personally because, and yes, we've got to tackle the grooming gangs. That's for certain. But we've got to stop being prosecuted for protecting our borders. And so that's the most important thing here. And
removing the incentives. As we talked about on this channel a lot.
Oh, we're soft touch Britain, aren't we?
There is still a Home Office website evident online which clearly says, and it is entitled, here are the words, "This is what you get as an asylum seeker." It is an open invitation, an incentive, a handout to anybody that wants to come here for free stuff to come and do exactly that. Dame Andrea Jenkyns, thank you very much indeed.